Today, you're going to learn English with the news. We're going to read a news article together so you can learn advanced vocabulary, so you can learn advanced grammar, and so you can improve your pronunciation. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. First, I'll read the headline, A Brief History of Airline Food's Rapid Descent. We're talking about airline food. So here, we have what you might get today. What do you think? Does this look appealing to you? If it looks appealing, so our verb is look, and then appealing is always in the ing form. It means it looks attractive or appetizing, something you want to eat. So does this look appealing? Maybe not so much. But if you're on an 8-hour flight and this is the only option available, maybe it looks pretty appealing at that moment. So a brief history. Brief means short, concise, communicated in few words. This is commonly used as a statement. You might say, oh, I'm going to share something with you, but I'll be brief. I'll share it in few words, quickly, concisely. This can also be used as a request. If someone asks you for a few minutes to tell you something, you say, okay, but please be brief. So notice it's used with the verb be. A brief history. In this case, it's an adjective. It's describing what type of history they're going to provide. A brief history of airline food's rapid descent. So descent, of course, means going down, which is interesting because the pilot will come on the speaker and say, we have now began our descent. So we're now beginning to land the plane. So in this case, it's airline food's rapid descent, implying that at one point, airline food was appealing, but then there has been a rapid descent. It has gone down very quickly. Don't worry about taking notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's continue with our lesson. If you took an American Airlines flight in the 1960s, so when you have a decade and then you have an S after it, it means any time from 1961 to 1969. And notice it's in the, so this is the preposition that you need, in the 60s. We sometimes use this to talk about our age or when we did something. So you could say, I was born in the 80s. You don't have to say 19 because it's implied, but you can. I was born in the 80s. I graduated in the 90s, the 70s. Now, if you want to be a little more specific, but not reveal the actual number, you can say the early 80s, the mid 1980s, or the late 1980s. Now, this is a true statement for me. So if you had to guess, would you say I was born in the early 80s, the mid 80s, or the late 80s? What do you think? Put your answer in the comments. You can guess a specific year, or you can say early, mid, or late. Put that in the comments just for fun. Why not? Now, notice how it says if you took, because this is hypothetical. Here, the structure is if, subject, past simple for the first part. If you took an American Airlines flight. American Airlines is just the name of the airline. If you took an American Airlines flight in the 1960s, you would be. So this apostrophe D represents would. So the next part is subject would base verb. You would be wined and dined. What does that mean? To be wined and dined, this is just a expression that we use to mean treated very well, with a high degree of service or quality. So maybe you went to a conference and you say, I was wined and dined. They treated me very well at the conference, but it generally includes the quality of food and beverages. You'd be wined and dined from the coach class menu. You would be treated very well, specifically when it comes to food and drink. Your meal began with the beef consommé and proceeded to sautéed breast of chicken in wine. So these are just examples of quality food to show how you would be wined and dined. Care for a fruit tartlet for dessert. So notice how this is being asked as an expression, because a common way to offer you something, perhaps if you're on a plane, is the flight attendant would go by and say, care for some pretzels. Now, this is the short form because the full sentence would be, would you? Would you care for some pretzels? But native speakers often drop the would you and just say, care for some water, care for a hot towel, care for a blanket, care for a pillow. Things you generally don't get anymore on a plane, but in the past you would because you were wined and dined. So I could ask you, care for some more video lessons? Would you care for some more video lessons? So you can say, yes, I would, to use the full structure. Yes, I would care for some more video lessons, which means you want more video lessons, or just to be fun, put yes, yes, yes. So if you want more video lessons, put yes, yes, yes in the comments so I know you want more lessons just like this, and then I'm happy to make them because I want to wine and dine all my students. Now remember, technically we would use that if food and beverage were present, but you know what I mean. So put yes, yes, yes in the comments. Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, the movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. Today, if you're flying coach, you'll need to book a long-distance international flight, or maybe if you're lucky, a coast-to-coast domestic one to receive a free meal. So notice here between the two dashes, maybe if you're lucky. So you can remove this section and it will still be grammatically correct. You'll need to book a long distance international flight or a coast-to-coast domestic one. And that's to receive a free meal. Now here, one replaces what word? What word does one represent? One replaces flight or a coast-to-coast domestic flight. Now, native speakers will often replace the noun with one or it, depending on the sentence, to avoid being repetitive. Let's look at this sentence. If you're flying coach, you'll need to book. What type of sentence is this? This is a conditional sentence. Most students know because of this if clause. You can also use when, if or when, and the first conditional. Now, the first conditional is usually formed with the present simple. If you fly coach. To be safe, I would use the present simple. However, this is in the present continuous. It just shows that continuation of the action. So let's look at this sentence. If you subscribe to my channel, make sure you subscribe, you'll receive amazing free video lessons. So we have if or when. If sounds like it might not happen, but when is assuming you will subscribe. But if is maybe you will, maybe you won't. if you subscribe, when you subscribe. So if, when, subject, and then the present simple. Then the next part is subject, will, base verb, which is the future simple. You'll receive amazing free video lessons. So make sure you hit subscribe. Today, if you fly coach, you'll need to book a long distance international flight. So notice the verb you use, you book a flight. Have you booked your flight yet? Let's continue. On shorter flights, you might get a choice of complimentary cookies or pretzels. I love how they say might. I have been on many short flights where they don't give you anything. You might get. So might is a modal verb. Notice our structure, might plus base verb, modal plus base verb. Might is used for possibility. It could be 50%, 60%, 80%. There is no set definition. It's just for possibility. So if you say to me, Jennifer, I might subscribe to your channel. That's not very good because that's just a possibility. There's an equal chance you might not subscribe. But if you say, Jennifer, I will subscribe, this is great news for me and for you because I share lots of free lessons to help you become fluent. And will is used for promises or commitments, but might is used for possibility. So if you want to communicate with confidence, don't say might, use will. So hopefully you say, Jennifer, I will subscribe. You might get a choice of complimentary cookies or pretzels. Now, there's actually a mistake in this part that I've highlighted, and this is a mistake that many native speakers make because there is one word that is very easily confused with another word. Do you know what the mistake is? And I hope this makes you feel better if you make these mistakes because native speakers make these mistakes. A professional writer made this mistake. Do you know what the mistake is? Put the word in the comments if you do. The mistake is with this word. And it's just a spelling mistake because in spoken English, there's no difference in the pronunciation. But in spelling, it's not spelled correctly because this word means something different. The correct spelling is with an I instead of an E. That's the only difference between these two. But complimentary with an I means free. And complimentary with an E means that it goes well with, it complements, it matches, it enhances, it goes well with. So to be fun, I can say, care for a glass of milk. I'm offering you a glass of milk. Care for a glass of milk. It would be complimentary to your cookies. So you're already eating cookies and I say care for a glass of milk. It would go well with, it would enhance the flavor of, it would be complimentary to your cookies and is complimentary and it's free. So you don't have to pay for it. So of course, take the glass of milk. There are no disadvantages. So that's how you could technically use both of these words in one sentence, but they do have different meanings. Remember, this is just a minor spelling issue. Pronunciation is identical. Let's continue. Airplane food has fallen a long way from the glory days. The glory days were when airline food was at its highest point, from the glory days of in-flight dining. So dining on an airplane, in-flight dining. When meals were served on white tablecloths and stewardesses scrambled eggs in the air. So the stewardess is scrambling eggs in the air, meaning the plane is in the air. Imagine that. Imagine being on a plane and there is a flight attendant. Stewardess is an outdated word because it is a gendered word. And in modern English uses, we avoid gendered words. So we don't say waitress, waiter. Now we say server for both male and female. So in the past, they said stewardesses, but now we say flight attendants, which is gender neutral, male, female. So you have a flight attendant scrambling eggs in the air, puts down a white tablecloth, and serves you a meal. That is wining and dining, which no longer takes place. Let's continue. Disappearing meals have joined a long list of pain points, inconveniences, and cutbacks that flyers endure today. Flyers represents people who fly. Now, disappearing meals, this is the subject of the sentence. And they're saying that the disappearing meals have joined a long list. So there are many other items on a list, and these items are things that flyers, people who fly, are mad about. They're pain points. They're mad about it. They don't like it. Maybe because it's inconvenient, for example. And so disappearing meals is just one thing on that list, and it's a long list, is what this is saying. Now, cutbacks, this is when airlines try to save money by reducing how much they spend. So that would be cutbacks. And it's appropriate that they use the word endure. So the one, disappearing meals, is one of the things that flyers, people who fly, endure today. Because when you endure something, it's always used with something negative. It's when you experience something negative, you suffer through, you tolerate, but it's only used with negative things. And this is an example of something negative. But industry cost cutting, so here they're cutting costs, which could also be called a cutback, because a cutback is when there is a spending reduction, which is also cost cutting. So industry cost cutting, the airlines are spending less money on things like meals for you. Industry cost cutting isn't the only reason your tartlet is gone. Remember at the very beginning, it was care for a fruit, I think, a fruit tartlet. So a tartlet is simply a type of dessert. So you can replace this with the word dessert. So spending reduction, cost cutting, cutbacks isn't the only reason why your dessert is gone. So why they're no longer offering you dessert on an airplane. The end of in-flight dining for many passengers. A passenger is someone who is on a plane. So you could also refer to them as a flyer, but a flyer is someone who flies. But if you're a passenger, it sounds like you are currently on the plane. So I'm a flyer, I fly frequently, but I'm not a passenger right now. I'm only a passenger when I'm on a plane, but I would describe myself as a flyer even though I'm not currently flying. The end of in-flight dining for many passengers surprisingly rose out of big changes in government regulation, airplane design, in-flight movies, industry tax breaks. Okay, rose out of, this would be another way of saying arrived from. This is the reason why this happened. For alternatives, you could say arrived or came from, was caused by, was because we're talking about one singular thing. The end of in-flight dining. This was caused by. This was the result of big changes in government regulation, airplane design, in-flight movies, interestingly, industry tax breaks, plus heightened health and safety concerns. Airline safety protocols and regulations since September 11th have changed what types of cooking knives crews can work with in the air. Crew is another word for employees, but crew is used in very specific circumstances. It's used with transportation, so the employees on a plane, all of them collectively are referred to as the crew. The crew. Planes, boats, trains, transportation, you refer to them as the crew. And this is also used frequently in the entertainment industry. So all the people involved in making a movie would be called the crew. But in most situations, you would just use the word employees in an office environment. You wouldn't say crew, you would say employees. Airplane galleys are smaller to allow for more passenger seats on a plane. The galley is the space on the plane where you as a passenger are not allowed to go. It's only for crew. It's for the flight attendants, or if the pilot wanted to go there, of course the pilot could. Generally, when you're waiting to use the bathroom, you can see the galley right behind the bathroom. And you've seen it. It's tiny. It's a very small space. Of course, it's not a full kitchen where they can scramble eggs for you. It's very small. Airplane galleys are smaller to allow for more passenger seats on a plane. And airlines don't serve some foods like peanuts to protect people with allergies. Meals are often smaller, blander, or non-existent. Non-existent, of course, means doesn't exist. So it's implying that you don't even get a meal. A meal is not offered to you on the plane. What does blander mean? Of course, you know what smaller means. What about blander? Meals are often blander. Do you know what this means? It means meals are often less flavorful. So if a meal doesn't have a lot of flavor in terms of simple things like salt, spices, garlic, you would say this is bland, bland. Bland means lacking in flavor. Blander is a comparative, so it means less flavorful than in the past, in the 1960s. This meal is bland. That's what you could say if you are eating a meal and it doesn't have a lot of flavor. This meal is bland. Bland is your adjective, and the verb to be, of course, you need to conjugate. Meal service was once a point of pride. To describe something as a point of pride means it was something that you were proud of. You could say, my high IELTS score is a point of pride, not price, pride, which means I'm proud of my high IELTS score, or my high IELTS score is something I'm proud of. You could also say the fact that I watch one JForrest English lesson, because of course you have already subscribed, the fact that I watch one lesson per day is a point of pride, is something I'm proud of. And you absolutely should be proud of simply making progress. The fact that you're consistent and committed, that should be a point of pride for you. Meal service, the meals you were served, meal service was once a point of pride. If it was once, it means it no longer is. I'm sure airlines know their food isn't good. Of course they know this. It's very obvious. Meal service was once a point of pride, said Henry Hartveld, who covers the travel industry for Atmosphere Research Group. I don't know what this is. Clearly, it's a group that does research. Now, the quality is so poor, you have to wonder. So to wonder, do airline executives actually have taste buds? This is a cheeky thing to say because if you had taste buds, which means you have the ability to taste different flavors. If you had taste buds and you tried this meal, you would know it isn't very good. You would know it's very bland. So you have to wonder, do airline executives actually have taste buds? That's a very cheeky thing to say. You're probably wondering about that word I just used, cheeky. Cheeky, what does that mean? Well, to be cheeky, this means to be rude, impolite. But when you're cheeky or you say something cheeky, to use it as an adjective, you're doing it in more of a humorous, playful, or lighthearted way. So comedians generally are cheeky. They say things that are rude, but they do it in a funny way. So if I was talking to you and you're an airline executive and I say, "Do you have any taste buds?" That sounds rude, but I have to wonder, do you have any taste buds? That sounds more cheeky. I'm saying the same thing, but I'm trying to be more humorous, playful, lighthearted. But ultimately, I'm saying the same thing. So that's a cheeky thing to say. And that's the end of our article. So what I'll do now is I'll read the article from start to finish, and this time you can focus on my pronunciation. A brief history of airline food's rapid descent. If you took an American Airlines flight in the 1960s, you'd be wined and dined from the coach class menu. Your meal began with the beef consommé and proceeded to sautéed breast of chicken in wine. Care for a fruit tartlet for dessert? Today, if you're a flying coach, you'll need to book a long-distance international flight, or maybe if you're lucky, a coast-to-coast domestic one to receive a free meal. On shorter flights, you might get a choice of complimentary cookies or pretzels. Airplane food has fallen a long way from the glory days of in-flight dining when meals were served on white tablecloths and stewardesses scrambled eggs in the air. Disappearing meals have joined a long list of pain points, inconveniences, and cutbacks that flyers endure today. But industry cost-cutting isn't the only reason your tartlet is gone. The end of in-flight dining for many passengers surprisingly rose out of big changes in government regulation, airplane design, in-flight movies, industry tax breaks, plus heightened health and safety concerns. Airline safety protocols and regulations since September 11 have changed what types of cooking knives crews can work with in the air. Airplane galleys are smaller to allow for more passenger seats on a plane, and airlines don't serve some foods, like peanuts, to protect people with allergies. Meals are often smaller, blander, or non-existent. Meal service was once a point of pride, said Henry Hartfelt, who covers the travel industry for Atmosphere Research Group. Now, the quality is so poor, you have to wonder, do airline executives actually have taste buds? So did you like this lesson? Do you want me to make more lessons where we read the news together? If you do, then put yes, 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 put yes, yes, yes in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And I have another lesson I know you'll love, so make sure you watch it right now.